here on August 24th, 2023 at 9 a.m. If you have your phones, please put them on silent. Thank you. Roll call of officers, please.
Commissioner Underwood. Commissioner Montañez.
Present.
Commissioner Lear.
Here.
Commissioner Jimenez. Commissioner Zarges.
Here.
Vice Chair Zerniak. Here. Chair Acosta.
Present. Okay, item number 2, approval or changes to the agenda. Chair entertains the motion.
Move the agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor. A second. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Item number 3, approval of the minutes of regular meeting of July 27, 2023.
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes from the regular meeting, July 27th.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
I have a motion on the floor. It's been second. Any discussion on the motion? No discussion. All those signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have
I'll
it.
abstain. I wasn't at that meeting.
You abstain?
Yes.
Okay. Did you make a note of that? Okay, thank you. Old business, item number 4.
No old business, Mr. Chair.
Okay. All right. Item number 5, new business. Case number B23-005. Staff
Mr.
ready?
Chair, can I just say welcome back, Commissioner Zarges? Good to have you back, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner.
And by the way, Sean, we'll ask you to come forward after a while. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Christopher Valencia, 845 North Motel Boulevard, Las Cruces, New Mexico.
Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give today is the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Thank you.
And excuse me for a second. Anybody that's going to be testifying for or against, or any comments you'd like to do, please sign in, and we'll swear you in.
They have signed in.
Everybody signed in?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Proceed.
Good morning, Commission. Vice Chair Cerniak, Chair Acosta. My name is Christopher Valencia. We have our first cases this morning. The agenda 5A, case number V23-005. The owner applicant, Frank Gonzalez. Location, he lives in the village of Tortugas, New Mexico, 481 Tortugas Drive. The zone for that area is a T4, consists of mostly mixed uses, was primarily residential. It contains a wide range of buildings, building types. The request is a variance to the height of an existing 4-foot rock wall to the west side of the property, increased to a 7.5 foot, where the maximum is 6 foot in that zone. Here we have the location of the applicant's home, right here in the corner of Tile or Tile Avenue and Tortugas, Tortugas Drive, in the village of Tortugas. Here's the aerial photo. We have applicant's home in the corner right here, on the corner of Tile and Tortugas. The zoning map, we have mobile home park. It's surrounded by mobile home park, mostly residential, medium residential. Description of the property. The subject property measures 104 feet by 77 by 146 and 145 feet. 0.29 acres. I have a little diagram off the side. The applicant has applied for a variance to the height of an addition to a rock wall fence on the side of the yard from 4 foot to 7.5, which in that area, 6 is the maximum. The west side rock wall would be the location of the additional fence right there on the side, and the arrow depicts an undeveloped lot on that side of the west side of the home. T4 zone, where 6 foot is the maximum height, fence height allowed on the side yard. The property is located in the northwest corner of, like I said, 41 Tortugas Drive in the village of Tortugas. There's an existing 4-foot walk wall encompassing the entire parcel of the property. And the entrance, the access to the property is through Tile, and it's actually addressed on Tortugas Drive, but access to the property is from Tile. Here you can see the parcel close-up. This is the location of where the rock wall would be, the addition for the variance are here. Access to the building, access to the property would be here through a vehicular side and the pedestrian area here. The wall, the addition to the wall would be here on the back side, on the west side. Here we have the concept drawing, which the engineer drawing shows that looks like some posts being added to the fence. It's not really showing if it's attached or not, but the applicants here can explain that a little better. This is the engineering drawing. There were 39 letters of notification that were mailed to the property owner, a surrounding area. It was produced, the legal ad in the paper on July 30th. The signs were posted in a timely manner. There was one letter of opposition and 2 office visits by the neighbor to the rear at 3332 Tile. A new survey was produced by that neighbor that showed to the rear that shows that the existing rock wall was built on top of the property line, proving that the wall was shared and owned by both parties. The applicant's initial request was modified. He initially wanted to add it to this side right here. That was the initial request, but here on August 14th, the request was modified to just adding it to the west side. These are pictures of the applicant's home, the front where the signs were posted, the notification signs. This is the northwest view to the applicant's home on the intersection of Tile and Tortugas. Here's the other sign on Tile Avenue. This is the side property. This is the area of notification to surrounding properties. This picture I like, it looks very urban. This is the view west on Tortugas, and this is the view east on Tortugas in front of the applicant's home. View south at that intersection down Tile Avenue, and this is the view up north. This is the applicant, the notification sign on the side of the applicant's home. This is the shared property corner to the rear of the applicant's home, and this is the rear neighbor, the shared wall where the initial request was made, but that's been modified. This is the shared property corner where the wall will be added. This is the empty parcel here. There's no other neighbor onto that side. Surrounding areas. There are other fences, rock wall fences in the neighborhood, but not at 6 foot. The subject property is 0.29 acres located in the T4 zone. Access to the lot from the primary frontage line from Tile Avenue. However, property is addressed on Tortugas, which is interesting. The applicant states that the need for additional 3 foot of wall height is to provide for privacy, security and noise abatement, and to keep the pets inside the applicant's property. On July 11th, the applicant, Frank Gonzalez, applied for the variance to the wall height standards on a residential property side yard rock wall, and is proposing an additional 3 foot of metal framing with horizontal wood slats, increasing it to 7.5 feet. On August the 14th, the applicant modified his original request for a variance to additional height. A new survey was produced by the neighbor to the rear at 3332 Tile Avenue, showing the rock wall on top of the property line, therefore establishing it as a party wall. The new modified request is for the side property rock wall only. Yes, sir, sure.
Can you go back one? This, where you say therefore establishing it as a party wall. What's a party wall?
A shared wall. I might have had the incorrect definition, but it's a shared wall on both sides of the wall.
Is the raised wall on his side of the property line because it's a rock wall and it's like 6 inches in? Or does he need approval of the neighbor to put that, even with the variance, to put that extension up?
My understanding is that he needed a, because it's a shared wall, you needed both both neighbors' approval for the addition of the wall.
Does he have the approval?
He does not.
Okay. Thank you.
The findings in section 350-207B, decisional criteria for a variance, B1, the variance will constitute a special privilege for the applicant due to the fact that there are no other fences above 6 foot in the surrounding area in the T4 zone where the maximum height is 6 foot. 350-207B2, the variance will not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare, and is not materially injurious to properties or improvements in the area of notice. If approved, the applicant shall receive approval to the addition of the height to the rock wall, making it a fence at 7.5 feet. 350-207B3, the hardship created by the applicant is one that's created that can be avoided by only increasing the fence to 6 foot instead of 7.5 as applicant has requested. There are no other fences above 6 foot in the surrounding neighborhood. The hardship is self-imposed. 350-207B4, granting of the variance would not uphold the spirit and intent of the UDC 350-103. The intent is to create orderly, harmonious, economically sound development in order to promote the health, safety, and general welfare of the residents in the county. Our staff findings. The variance will constitute a special privilege for the applicant in a T4 zone where the maximum height of the barrier is 6 foot. There are no other rock wall fences above 6 foot tall around the surrounding neighborhood. The staff findings show that the granting of the variance would be in violation of 3 out of the 4 findings of the decisional criteria. 350-207B1, the variance will not be detrimental to public health and safety and welfare. It's not materially injurious to properties or improvements. 350-207B2, the hardship created by applicant is one that can be avoided by only increasing the fence height to 6 foot instead of 7.5. Hardship is self-imposed. The 350-207B3, the granting of the variance would not uphold the spirit and intent of the section 350-103 to create orderly, harmonious, economically sound development in order to promote the health, safety, and general welfare. There was 1 letter of opposition and 2 office visits were received for this request by the neighbor and the neighbor's mother, which produced a more up-to-date survey. And based on these findings and the fact of staff analysis in the variance meetings of 350-207B, the denial findings and UC compliance for variance requests, the staff recommends denial of the variance of this case, V23005. Thank you, Commission. Any questions?
Well, Commissioners, any questions of staff?
Yeah, Christopher, can you ask him to go back to your pictures?
Yes, sir.
Which picture shows the wall that's under consideration?
By the plan, it's easier on this side. In consideration now, after the modified request, is the red line.
So which picture shows that? Which photo?
Right here.
So it's in the back of that?
Correct. And this is an open property. This is an open,
Oh, I see.
a vacant parcel.
And is that part of the fence the same as the one? Oops.
I'm going to go to this. That is not. This is the fence. This was the initial fence in discussion. This right here, this L-shaped, that was removed
Okay,
last week
right.
by the production of a new survey showing that the wall is on the property line and proving that the wall is shared between both the rear neighbor and the applicant.
Okay, so what I'm trying to understand is that your photos, the one that shows that wall so the wall that's under consideration is at the back of this photo?
Yes, sir.
Is the configuration of that fence the same as the one that we're seeing? Is it a mix of rock and?
No, it's not. It's a complete rock
Okay,
wall.
okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
And the addition would be an additional 3 feet of wooden slats.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioners, you had another question? No questions, okay. Is the applicant here?
Yes, he is.
Good morning.
Good morning. Please state your name and address for the record.
Frank Gonzalez, 481 Tortugas Drive.
Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give today is the truth under penalty of law?
Yes.
Thank you.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
The actual height of the wall right now is like 4 feet and a half. And I wanted to put a 2-foot extension, which makes it 6 feet, 4 inches. but because it's going over 6 feet, I need a permit. I went and got the variation for 7.5 feet in case I went over the 6 feet 4 inch mark, sorry. And that's what my plan was. At first, I wanted both walls, but my neighbor, I discussed with my neighbor, they don't want that, so that wall, I'm leaving it alone, I'm just working on the back wall. And it's just those, it's 4.5 feet, so it gives me 2 feet of the panels, and it makes it 6 feet 4 inches. But like I said, because it's over 6 feet, I need a permit. And to get the permit, I need to do a variance, and that's why I submitted that. And the 7.5 feet, we're not going that high. We're gonna go, it's gonna be way under 7 feet, but we only did that so in case we went over, which we're not.
Well, the question I have is, was it a technical issue that, on the measurements, whoever built the fence? Or the-
No, what happens, for, the stakes were on the original plans with my neighbor. The one stake's on my side, the other stake, I guess, is underneath the fence. So since it turned out to be a party wall, we're leaving that one alone. But the other side, the side where I want to extend it, that's on my property. And that's the one I want to extend up. So.
Okay. Bless you. Any questions of the applicant, Commissioner?
You asked mine
No.
about where the location of the wall was.
Well, thank you.
So,
Well, go ahead.
so you're saying that you want to build the wall 6 feet 4 inches, not 7.5 feet?
Yeah, not 7.5 feet, but we put 7.5 feet on our plans and everything in case we went over, because back then I was having issues with my neighbor about the height, and I didn't want no conflict. So that's why the engineer just put 7.5 feet, but it's actually gonna be 6 feet 4 inches, more or less.
So that's literally one board in the fence.
No, well, it's gonna be 3 boards.
Well, I understand, but if you take one board off, you're under the 6 feet. So why wouldn't you do that? And we wouldn't have to you wouldn't have to come before us. I don't
Well-
understand why you can't meet the 6-foot limit.
Oh, because my dog jumps on the fence and he can stand up there, and this will keep him from going over. A couple of times, I got a female mutt that she's gone over a couple of times, but this will keep her in the yard. I recently put some electric wire there, but I mean, it doesn't look good.
Mr.
And-
Chair, Mr. Chair, may I ask a question?
Go ahead.
What is the primary reason you want to raise the fence then?
It gives the modern look for some of the homes. Have you seen some of the homes that have the boards added to the rock wall? It looks pretty cool. And to keep my animal inside and some privacy issues.
Just 1.5 inches away.
Mr. Chair, I have a question. You mentioned a couple of times as one of your primary reasons is to keep your pets inside.
Yes.
Doesn't the wall that is, it'd be on the north side of the property, where your neighbor is that wall still at 4 foot?
Yes, but I got electric wire now.
Okay,
Oh, it's 4.5 feet.
I guess, wouldn't your dog be able to go over that wall? Even if you did put this wall up? I mean, it's,
No, because right now we have the electric wire there. And if I get the panels built on the other side, we were talking to my neighbor about putting panels on the inside of my wall would be higher, the same size. And that way, my dogs would stay inside.
okay.
I mean,
Any further questions, Commissioners?
Not of Mr. Gonzalez.
Mr. Chair, I have a question actually for my fellow commissioners. If we approve this variance, doesn't that give him the option at some point in the future to go to 7.5 feet?
Yes, if we approve it at 7.5.
Yeah, we don't have to give it.
We don't have to do
Okay,
that. We
all
can do a conditional.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
We may bring you back forward again.
All right, thanks for your time.
Sean, can you please step forward?
Chris, can you bring the property map back up? Yep, that one, thank you.
Good morning. Please state your name and address for the record.
Sean Vick, 845 North Motel Boulevard.
Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give today is the truth under penalty of law?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners.
Okay, good morning, Sean.
Morning.
How did we get here in this case? Because most normally, let me help you out here. a little
Yes,
bit.
sir.
Most normally, it's complaint driven.
This isn't, he applied for the permit for the rock wall, to add on to the rock wall. Along the north side with his neighbors, because that's really the main concern, is the dogs jumping to that side and I believe jumping out. That wall was built half and half. It's, if you look at the survey, it's weird, and I've looked at the survey and I've spoken to both parties. Because of the neighbor to the north water line, and I believe their well, when the wall was originally built, you know, before my time, I mean, pretty much, it was on mainly his property, but a little bit on their property, and then it kind of slowly jogs back across their property and his property, just the way the wall's built. So that's where we get the shared wall portion of it. I talked to, when Ernie was originally reviewing this, my first option to him was just basically to build posts on the inside of his property, build wood slats up above it or metal, whatever you have it, so we don't degrade the structural integrity of these rock walls. These rock walls, they're rumble stone walls. They're not structural in any way. You know, if you don't get the right PSI in the grout, if you get voids in the rock, we've all seen the rock wall guys, they put trash, they put stuff in there, you know, when we're not there. It's not all solid concrete. So when you put that post in there and then you add the slats on there, you're gonna get wind, you're gonna get resistance on there, and eventually it's gonna crack the top of it. May not be a bit detrimental or really severely hurt somebody, but it's gonna affect that wall. The applicant didn't wanna do that, wanted to go the 6 feet. Now he had Mr. Lilly, which is structural engineering, and you know, we do a lot of stuff with Dan, give us a design on how it's gonna be constructed, which I could approve based on that, even though I would prefer it to be not on the rock wall. If Mr. Lilly's given us design, we can look at that. So that's really where we're at today, is basically the height. He could have gone 6 feet with no, I mean, basically a post permit and extension in that aspect. But he wanted to go a little bit above 6 feet, wanted to go 7 feet. One of the concerns as well is where the neighbors pull out on their side, you have their driveway coming out on tile right there. So if you have a 7-foot wall on both corners, which I understand him wanting to keep his dogs in there, you would have to comply with the UDC and the height requirements coming back. I think it's 5 feet to 4 feet, and then he can go up. I'd have to double check, so don't correct me. So that's really where we're at. Again, it's up to you guys to decide which way you want to go on this. But it makes more sense to build something inside the property, not affect the existing rock wall. And then he could go up to 7 feet on his property if he wanted to, you know, on the inside of that, because it's not on the property line. If he was to back up 5 feet, or he has some options. But I believe, based on the photos and the property owners to the north, I've looked, he already started to construct some of the posts on the wall to the north. There is photos of him cutting the concrete and putting some posts in there. He's since backed out. Of course, that's going to be a civil issue between the two property owners in that aspect, and not as far as we're looking at that. But if it's an issue with the dogs and their safety, they've mentioned that the dogs jump up on the fence and scare them, and their main concern was the integrity of the wall, which I understand. I see it as being separate, and then again, that's why we have the staff finding to deny the variance.
And for us to come into compliance, or for the petitioner to come in compliance. Do you have any ideas to offer to rectify the situation?
Personally, to withdraw the variance in the permit for the extension onto the rock wall and to submit a plan to build a sole and separate wall with just post on the inside till we hit the 4 feet 4 inches. And then go ahead and construct it up with wood slats, 2x6, rough sawn cedar, metal, whatever he'd like to do in that aspect. Then he could possibly go around the back of his entire property to secure his animals and provide safety for the neighbors as well.
John, you mentioned the issue of the neighbors' vehicles leaving and having did I hear that you said they would have obstruction in view for that main street or the street they would turn out? Is that?
Yes, sir, Commissioner.
Okay, isn't there, I thought years ago, there used to be a clear sight triangle rule?
There is, based on the type of road, you know, if it's a major, minor road like that. So basically, the UDC, I believe it's, and I'd have to go back, I think it's 4 feet or 4.5 feet for 30 to 40 feet right now, Chris?
4 feet.
Because it's not technically a clear sight triangle. Now, if it was on the main street and Tile, Tortugas coming in, then of course, that's why you have the clear sight triangle there, based on the intersection. Here, he would just have to be 4 feet. But there's a tree there, people plant things, but still in compliance with the UDC.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
And don't leave yet. The adjacent owner, are they present? Okay. We'll bring you back. Thank
Wait,
you.
Mr. Chair. So Sean, on this map, what's this structure that's right on the fence line?
It's an opening of sorts.
Are we looking at this chair here?
Oh, that's
here?
what
Yep.
I was looking for, Chris.
That is is that a shed? That's a shed, a storage shed?
Does that violate the side yard setback?
We would probably look at that as legal non-conforming. I would have to go back in the aerials and see how long that shed's been there in that aspect. But if, today, yes, it would violate a side setback.
See, I got a problem. If he's already violating the side yard setback, there's no way to approve that variance. You have to move the shed.
That shed is part of the wall, part of that existing rock wall.
But it's violating the side yard setback. That's my problem.
Built in 1934? The shed was built in 1934. 1934?
Well, in that case,
So we can look at that as legal
It's legal non-conforming. That's before we were born here, okay?
a little before my time.
I didn't know Tortugas was that old.
Okay, we're gonna set that aside for a minute. Thank you, Sean. I'm gonna bring the
Thank you, Commissioner.
next door neighbor. Can you please come forward? And we're gonna swear you in. Thank you.
Good morning. Please state your name and address for the record.
Orlando Rivera, 3332 Chow Street.
Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give today is the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Thank you.
Morning.
Mr. Rivera, good morning. The petitioner, I'm sure, has already contacted you several times regarding the wall, right?
Correct.
What's your take on that?
I feel whatever Mr. Gonzalez wants to do on his property is up to him. My issue was on my wall, and I had to prove a lot of evidence in order to prove that that was my wall. I can go back to the beginning, real brief. In April, Mr. Gonzalez approached us, me and my family, and asked us if he can build on the wall. I thought about it, and I said, I don't want to break the structure of the wall. I came to the county and asked for information about the structure. Like Mr. Vick said, it could cause structural damage. I went back and told Mr. Gonzalez I do not want to do that. I said, if you want to do something in your yard, you're more than welcome. I'll even help you out. I'll even pay for your poles, because a big concern we had was his dogs. And the dogs have come over. I have tenants in my front house, and they've been bit, and I've had to take them before. So I've called Mr. Gonzalez many times because the dogs do keep jumping over. Then at that point, Mr. Gonzalez told me, I'm fine, I won't build it on the rock wall. Memorial Day weekend in May, I came home, and he began construction. He put two 2-foot large poles all around my wall. The reason why I say it's my wall is because in 2011, I went and purchased the wall. The wall was existing since 100 years ago. Mr. Gonzalez's grandpa, my grandfather, built that wall. The wall's been up as a property line. Up until that point, in 2011, the wall's falling down. So I approached Mr. Gonzalez, said, I want to rebuild the wall. He said, okay, I don't got the money for it right now. I said, that's fine. I'll pay for it. I just want this wall to match the rest of my wall because around the rest of my property, I was already building a wall. He said he had no problem if I can use the old wall, the old rock that fell. He will use the old rock if I'm okay with it. I said, sure, on your side, but not on mine. I went and got the permits. I went and got the rock, the workers, employees, everything. Now we come to this year, I come home and I see these poles. I approached Mr. Gonzalez immediately and said, what are you doing? He says, well, I got a survey and the marker on the tile street shows it's my property, completely my property. I says, no, it's not. It's shared property. It went back and forth in dispute. At that point, and he said, it's my property, I can do what I want on my wall. End of story. The next day I came with the county, I explained to him what's going on. They called Mr. Gonzalez and they put a stop to it. Up until August 11th, I had to go and used to get another survey just to prove that the rock wall was shared. Because any other proof that Mr. Gonzalez had presented was from 2001, prior to the new rock wall coming up. Mr. Gonzalez did have another survey done, but never provided it to the county. So now I'm here at the county. On August 11th, I made an appointment, spoke with Mr. Valencia, Mr. Casillas. I showed them the survey. They saw it and they said, yes, that is correct. You have a party wall. Prior to that, in May, Mr. Gonzalez told me, show me evidence that that's your wall, legal documents, and I'll remove the wall. I'll remove the post. I'll stop construction. That's exactly what I did. I went and saw an attorney. I got legal advice. They said that wall is a community property. They understood what was going on. They served Mr. Gonzalez a cease and desist letter. I requested 10-day notice to respond. Until this day, I haven't heard nothing. I have not spoken to Mr. Gonzalez. We see each other outside. I don't put my head down, but Mr. Gonzalez continues to look the other way. I don't want to have tension. I want this to be amicable. I go to the point where yesterday I called Mr. Gonzalez, say, I know the variance has been removed. I was officially notified this past Friday that the variance on our shared wall is completely gone. I asked Mr. Gonzalez yesterday, I called him up. We had a good conversation. I said, Mr. Gonzalez, I want to know what are you going to do with those poles that are still sticking up on our shared wall? I don't want to do nothing on the wall without your consent. Even though I feel the wall is mine because I paid for it, I did everything I could. I understand it's on the boundary line. It takes consent from both parties. That's what a party wall is. You need a consent from each other. I asked him if he can please remove the poles before we do anything with this, with his other variance he's requesting at this point. He says his intention is completely to remove the poles, but he wants to save them and use them on his this other wall with the variance. He don't want to lose the poles. I said, that's fine. When can I have this done? Immediately, as soon as the variance is over, the hearing, I want to have it removed. I said, I appreciate that. That's what I'm asking for. The issue I have with these dogs is I've asked him before, when it first happened, I said, let's come up with a different situation, different idea. Let's put something, can you put electric fence? He refused to. First part of August, after the signs were put up, Mr. Gonzalez put electric fence. And what happens? The dogs stop jumping over that corner. I have asked if he can go ahead and do the rest of the wall, keep his dogs inside his yard. I did show a video to Mr. Valencia, Mr. Casillas about the dogs on the wall. They were in agreement. They are very vicious. I'm telling you, these dogs have jumped over many times. I have issues with those poles being there currently because I want them removed. The clear sight triangle is very important for me. I do have tenants in my front house. I live in the back house. When they leave, my family leave, when I leave, I want them removed. I don't want the wall in Mr. Gonzalez's yard at that corner is 4 feet. The variance states for the code, 4 feet, 25, if it's 25 miles per hour, which down the road, the traffic goes real fast because my neighbor is a mechanic. He has a lot of business going back and forth. When I leave, it's supposed to be 4 feet, 20 feet back on one side and 20 feet back in my entrance. It goes up to my plants. It goes up past his trees. I don't complain about his trees. My plants are in ordinance. So that's why I want the pole removed, because I don't want it to invite future construction. The pole on the other side, at the west end, Mr. Gonzalez told me he's going to remove it and put it 6 inches into his yard. My survey did come out, and it does show that my pole, when they built the wall, they put it as close to my property in 2011 as possible because they wanted to build it. I asked them to put it in my property as much as possible, and that's exactly what they did. Again, the water meter is on the utility, was been there forever. It will cause a burden for me to have to call the city, county to go and move the water. I couldn't do that. I had to put the wall where I was at. At that time, Mr. Gonzalez agreed. Again, here in early part of April, Mr. Gonzalez did agree that the wall is a part of ours because he did come up to me and approach me. Hey, can I go ahead and build on this wall? And I said, let's come up with a different solution. So I've given my solutions. I've given my answers. I request that these poles are removed. That's one of the contingencies I ask. If the variance does pass. The walls on the other side, I don't want to stop somebody from doing something in your yard. I'm trying to be amicable about everything because there'd be future construction. If you say it can't go higher than 6 feet, there's nobody on the other yard. It's vacant. There's no privacy issues for that. There's nobody. It's a big lot that's empty. As dogs coming out of the yard, it can be controlled by other means. Electric fence, he's proven the electric fence is available. He can put the electric fence around the rest of the house. There's a front yard that he doesn't use. I know that the variance request for noise, he lives on a corner street of a busy intersection. You can't avoid the noise. So it took a lot of time, effort, financial burden for me and my family to go through this whole process to show that that wall was mine, part of ours. I say my piece, and I just want to have peace from here on out.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments. We may ask you to come back again, but thank you. Any
Sure.
questions of neighbor? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Commissioners,
I think I have one question.
sure.
Do we know who has title to that undeveloped lot? Or if are there any plans for development or anything going to the county?
We don't know of any other future plans. It has been vacant. I can go back on Google Earth 10, 15 years, and it's still been vacant. There are no plans that we know of for that lot.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anybody else for or against this case? Yes, you can come back in, yeah.
Yeah, there's some issues that Mr. Rivera brought up that aren't true. The wall that Moy survey did my survey initially, and it showed the wall on my property. But then since then, we found one stake, but the stake on his property supposedly is underneath. So I can live with that. I already told them that I'd move the poles. I had put 3 poles to start my construction because I was under the impression that the wall was on my property. I already told them I'm going to remove them. But the issue today for my variance is not that wall at all. When they built walls around their property because they were having issues with their other neighbor, once that was done, the guy that built their wall, I contacted him and he built mine. Now I got a notarized declaration from the guy that I paid him. There's no that I paid for that wall itself.
But let me interrupt you here for a second. The issue here is allowing or not allowing the variance to go forward, okay?
Yes.
Everything else, I know that there's a lot of issues behind it.
I understand.
So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna close it off. And what I'd like to do is, we're gonna see if we can vote on it, okay?
Okay.
But you've heard many options that can be done.
Yes.
Are you, okay?
Yeah.
Then I want you to make sure that you know that there's other options that can be done to mediate the problem. So, we're gonna close it to the audience, and thank you very much for your comments. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Okay, commissioners, go ahead.
Sean? You can answer. Yeah, you can answer from there. If he builds the wall to 6 feet and he puts an electric fence on, or a wire on top of that, does that constitute part of the wall? I mean, if that wire, say, is 1 inch above the 6-foot limit, does that exceed the 6-foot height regulation, or is it okay to run that wire?
An electric wire on there, I would consider a part of the fence and not the 6 foot. Now, if you were to go up with, let's say, razor wire or barbed wire, which would be allowed in a residential neighborhood anyways, then that would be an addition that we would count up past that. But putting the electric wire up on top would be sufficient and be fine.
I'm sorry, say again?
That would be okay.
That would be okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Commissioners, the chair entertains a motion. And be very specific on the motion if there's any, to include the motion, whatever you decide to do, okay, on your motion.
I'll make a motion. I'll move approval of the variance V 23-005 as presented.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor, it's been second. Any discussion on the motion?
Yeah, I agree with you, Mel, that I think there's enough options here, but I don't understand why a 7-foot fence, a 6'4" fence, any of those options, why you have to exceed the 6-foot limit, especially if you can put, he already has an electric wire on the back wall, why you couldn't put a wire on this wall at 6 feet? Seems like that would stop the animals from going over the wall.
So on the motion, do you want to add anything to that, or?
No,
No. I think the motion is for the variance. And it's up to us to make a decision on the variance, and then whatever else, like,
All
you
right,
know, making it go back, you know, I mean, you could do a conditional motion and say limited 6 feet and things like that, but,
all right.
you know, you're just getting into things. This could be done all administratively,
All right.
which would cost a lot less for Mr. Gonzalez also, to just do it that way.
Okay, so straightforward, either for or against the variance, okay? We have a motion on the floor, it's been second. Any discussion on the motion? No discussion, ready for a vote?
Commissioner Underwood,
No.
Commissioner Montañez,
No.
Commissioner Lear,
No.
Commissioner Zargis,
No,
Vice Chair Zerniak,
No,
Chair Acosta.
No. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Sean, and thank you for attending. All right, item number,
Mr. Chair, on
Yes.
denial of a variance, just a point of order, are we required to list the reason for our no vote?
well, you can if you want to, but since it was a unanimous no, I don't think we need
Thank
to.
you. I just wanted to ask and get that on record.
All right. Item number 6, administrative approvals, Janine?
Janine, did you hear what Commissioner Montañez asked?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Zerniak, since staff recommendation was denial, you do have the findings of fact to support your vote as well.
Without a justification?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
But you can certainly feel free to add anything if you like, Commissioner Montañez.
No,
Okay,
not if that's not necessary. Thank you.
all right, thank you.
Okay.
The reason I ask is if in any case this is appealed, that we,
I think that we had enough
Follow protocol.
testimony, I believe that we had enough testimony to justify our vote.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, item number 6, Janine, administrative approvals.
Good morning, Mr. Chair,
morning.
Commissioners. So the map before you shows that we issued 11 new single-family residential permits for the month of July, and those are depicted in yellow. We also issued 1 commercial application, and that was for a retail establishment along West Picacho Avenue. And then what is not mapped was we issued 12 single-family residential additions, and there were also 10 commercial alterations. Plus, we had a total of 27 mobile home installation permits. 16 of those were on private land, and 4 were in mobile home parks. And then we had 7 that they moved the home without permit, so they were triple feed. So for the month of July, we brought in almost $61,000 in permit fees. Any questions?
Mr. Chair, I have a question. The commercial one on West Picacho, it's, you said it was a retail. Do you know what the retail business is?
And Albert can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that was that property that we got the zone change for, the
that for the
UV?
body shop?
Yeah, I think it was the body
Okay,
shop.
all right, I know
But
where-
it listed here as retail, so,
Okay,
is that correct, Albert? Retail, 3400 West Picacho for Riverwalk Investments.
Yeah, I don't know why it's showing us retail, but that was that mechanic shop for
Yeah,
UTVs.
mechanic,
all right.
for
I
UTVs.
remember that one.
Yeah,
Thank-
UTVs. Okay. I'll check into that one as well. All righty, thank you.
Okay, Janine. Staff input, anything? Nothing?
Albert, did you want to mention the appeal?
At our last Board of County Commissioners meeting, we probably had the last appeal for a cannabis establishment within a residential area. They did approve it, they did went with the PNC's recommendation of conditional approval. This was the one that was off of Desert Wind and North Star up in the Westmoreland area. I think one of the conditions was that they were capped at 100 plants for 1 year. And then, after a year, we're going to do an inspection, and if they pass, they were going to go up to 200. But with the new amendments that the Board of County Commissioners adopted, that's not going to be the case anymore. If anybody's trying to do a cannabis establishment within 300 feet of a residential area, it's not going to be allowed. So that's the big change that occurred when they entertained the amendments back in June, and they became effective in July. The only exemption it's going to be to retail. That's the only cannabis use that allows for an applicant to apply for a special use permit if they want to be within 300 feet of a residential area. But everything else, it's pretty much just going to be a no. There's no recourse. There's no variance option. There's no zone change or special use permit that would allow for somebody to apply for a cannabis establishment if there's a residential area within 300 feet. So the way that happened was on one of our sections, we basically copied and pasted what the state had in their regs. If you're within 300 feet of a school, if you're within 300 feet of a daycare, then you can't do it. What they did was they added the word residential area on there as well. So and then there's no other option to go over that requirement except for retail. So that's one of the major changes. The other one too was that they got rid of the assessment exemption. Before, if you had a property that was being assessed as ag, you were able to be a cannabis producer. So that got taken out of the code, and they basically added permitted by right or permitted by special use permit or for a zone change. But those were some of the major changes that happened back in June, and they became effective in July. And of course, me and Sean, we've been dealing with a lot of applicants that were kind of like stuck in the middle. That were working through their processes, and if they didn't have a permit in, but by the time that the changes became effective, then that was pretty much it for them. So.
Well, I can think of a approval in Chaparral. It was a corner lot, and it was in a residential area. I don't know how far away from the houses they were, but we asked them to put a barrier on the west side, I believe, and the south side. I can't remember. It was close by, though. So that one is grandfathered in or not?
Yeah. That was before they,
If they have approval of it, yes. I mean, because they went through the process, they got approvals for, well, they basically went through the special use permitting process. So they got approval before the changes were made. The only thing I would probably look at is that for special use permits, they do have a time limit on them. And if he doesn't, start construction on that, before that expires, then I think he's going to lose that grandfather status. So
How long is a special use permit?
it's good for
expired?
1 year.
1 year. All right. And that is just for a start or for completion?
From the what?
I mean, just 1 year to start?
Yes,
start the
so
building
it's-
process?
Yeah, for 1 year to at least have something submitted to building services.
And I can think of another one, Navajo Trail off Westmoreland.
Yeah, so those are gonna be grandfathered in because they're already up and running. They've already had their 1 year trial period where, fire marshal and building services went out there to, check out the operation and, they checked out, so they were able to go up to, I believe, 200 plants.
And if I recall correctly, the special use permit we granted on Navajo Trail, they had already been licensed and operating as a medical cannabis grower. They had just, again, that was one of the first cases where we did put some conditions and were able to increase their limit to 200 plants.
Okay. And again, Albert, I'm still very concerned about water issues. So if you can help us out with that, what's your stand on that, Dr. Zerniak? If we can get people from the state or to give us information.
I think the problem is because of the litigation, they really don't want to talk about it. That's the problem. It hasn't been resolved. I know they had Senator Cervantes on KRWG, and he talked about water a lot and the disparity between northern New Mexico and southern New Mexico.
By far.
Right? I mean, the big one that I caught was that in southern New Mexico, water is metered for irrigation. In the north, it's not.
Right.
That really caught me. But it might be interesting to have Cervantes come in and talk about it. But I don't think the state engineer will talk about it or his staff. I think they'll be very close-lipped because of this litigation. And the adjudication is still going on. So that's another issue they don't want to talk about because that ends up in court. So I think it's tough to get information. Somebody from the university, the head of WRRI might come in and talk. But that's about the only person that I can think of that's sort of in a neutral position.
Well, it all depends which hat you're wearing at the time, right?
Yeah.
As a profession. I say nothing else further than that. But anyway, the thing that's going to be interesting is this. Do you have any feel on the migration of people coming into Doña County? Do you have the percentage of people coming in?
We don't, but we can always look up at the census, at the latest census data that's available. That would be my first guess. I don't know if Janine or Chris have any other ideas on that.
Well, okay. The chair entertains, go ahead.
We're still on commission input?
What's that?
We're still on commission input? Is that right?
That was commission input.
Okay, I just want to once again reiterate how wonderful it is to have Commissioner Zarges back. Just once again, welcome back, Commissioner, on
The
behalf
only thing I
of,
can say is that driving in here,
thank you.
my phone was playing Born Under a Bad Sign.
There we go.
That should tell you
It
something.
was an omen.
And Dr. Zerniak, world traveler, left me behind.
I will leave it alone from
I
there, sir.
offered to go, but no response. I thank you for that.
Mel, Mr. Chair, I want to thank Commissioner Lear. I had the opportunity to go on KTAL yesterday and talk about land use cannabis issues. And Albert, thank you for your help with that. But I think that kind of opportunity doesn't come along that often, and being able to talk about land use issues to the public on the radio was a good opportunity. And Sean, you should go on KTAL and talk about the cost of establishing a retail cannabis establishment, because that was an issue that came up. And I couldn't give specifics, but I know that that's a barrier for people that they don't understand about, that it's very expensive.
Yes,
So
sir.
it'd be, and I'm sure Dan and Watt Rubel would be happy to talk to you about that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Oh, and they're willing to give you autographs if you'd like. World-renowned radio artist here, okay? But anyway, thank you so much, everybody. Item number 9, the chair entertains a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
We have a second. Any
Second.
discussion on the motion? No discussion? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much for coming.
Let's go.